For almost 80 years, one box in your kitchen has never really changed. You press a button, it hums. A couple of minutes later, your food is hot, but somehow still cold in the center and rubbery at the edges. Now, in research labs across China, engineers are testing something different. Not a faster microwave, not a bigger one, a completely different way of thinking about how heat should move through food in the first place. And if this shift in thinking makes it fully into kitchens the way its developers hope, the appliance sitting on your counter right now could start disappearing within the next decade. Here's how it works, why it took this long, and why it's harder than it sounds. The microwave oven is statistically one of the most common appliances on the planet. It sits in the majority of homes across North America, Europe, and East Asia, tucked into kitchens so ordinary that most people couldn't tell you the make or model without looking. Most of us use it every single day, sometimes several times a day, without a second thought. Reheating coffee, cooking a frozen meal, defrosting dinner before work. It's so ordinary that we've stopped noticing it. But think about this for a second. The core technology inside your microwave, a device called a magnetron, which excites water molecules using radio waves, was developed in the 1940s. It came out of radar research during the Second World War, almost by accident, when an engineer noticed a chocolate bar in his pocket had melted while he was standing near an active radar set. Since then, we've split the atom, mapped the entire human genome, and built artificial intelligence that can write poetry and diagnose disease. And yet the box that heats our lunch still works almost exactly the way it did when your grandparents were newlyweds. Here's the part almost nobody thinks about. Microwaves don't actually cook food evenly, and by design, they never really could. They work by exciting water molecules inside the food, which generates friction, and that friction generates heat. But that heat only shows up wherever the food happens to have the most water, and wherever its shape lets those waves penetrate easily. That's why the edges of your lasagna can scald while the center stays cold. That's why microwaved chicken so often turns rubbery instead of browning like it would in a pan. There's a second, deeper limitation. Microwaves can't crisp, sear, or brown anything because those textures depend on something microwaves fundamentally don't produce: dry, direct heat at the surface. That's the entire reason nobody has ever successfully microwaved a plate of golden, crispy fries. The physics simply isn't built for it. For nearly 8 decades, this has just been quietly accepted, the tax we pay for speed. Fast, but flawed, and so normal that we stopped calling it a flaw at all. Engineers have tried to patch this problem for decades, in small, incremental ways. Turntables were added so food would spin and absorb energy more evenly. Sensors were added to estimate cooking time based on steam or weight. Some manufacturers even added small browning elements or grill functions bolted onto the side of an otherwise ordinary microwave. None of it solved the core issue, because every one of these fixes was still built around the same original principle: blast the food with microwave energy and hope the rest works itself out. What people actually needed wasn't a better microwave. It was a completely different question. So what if, instead of trying to force microwave energy to behave more like real, chef-style cooking, engineers combined several real cooking methods into a single machine, one controlled by a system smart enough to know exactly what food is in front of it and adjust on the fly. That's the core idea now being tested and refined in a new generation of hybrid, sensor-guided ovens emerging from Chinese appliance labs and research institutions. Instead of one blunt tool doing all the work, 3 coordinated tools working together. Picture a professional chef working a single dish. They don't blast it with one uniform type of heat from start to finish. They sear it hot and fast to build flavor and texture. Then they let it cook through more gently. Then they hold it warm while they finish the rest of the plate. That layered process, sear, cook through, hold, is essentially what these hybrid systems are trying to automate inside a single countertop box. Instead of a single microwave element, the oven combines 3 tools. First, forced hot air, similar to a convection oven, which heats food more evenly than radio waves alone. Second, targeted infrared or radiant heat, aimed at the surface, which is what actually produces browning and crisping, something a standard microwave has never been physically capable of. And third, in some prototypes, a small internal camera or sensor array that identifies what kind of food has been placed inside and adjusts power and heat zones in real time, rather than relying on a single timer set by guesswork. Think of it less like a microwave and more like a tiny, tireless sous chef built into your countertop, one that never gets distracted and never overcooks the edges while undercooking the middle. The practical goal researchers and manufacturers are working toward is simple to describe, even if it's hard to engineer. Food that comes out hot all the way through and browned or crisp on the outside, in roughly the same amount of time a microwave would take. Something that has never been possible with microwave technology alone, no matter how many buttons get added to the control panel. It's worth being precise here, though. This isn't one single, secret invention unveiled overnight. It's the convergence of several already existing technologies: convection heating, infrared cooking, and machine vision sensors, being packaged together, miniaturized, and refined, largely pushed forward by Chinese appliance manufacturers competing aggressively in the growing smart kitchen market. But here's where the story gets bigger than just a smarter toaster oven. China isn't only rethinking microwave-adjacent energy at the scale of your kitchen counter. Separately, researchers are rethinking microwave energy at an almost unimaginably larger scale: in orbit. Researchers connected to China's Zhuri Space Solar Power Initiative, led by academician Duan Baoyan at Jidian University, have proposed enormous orbital platforms designed to collect solar energy in space, where sunlight is constant and unfiltered by clouds or nighttime, and then beam that energy down to the ground using extremely narrow, precisely steerable microwave beams. This proposal was described in a paper published in the journal Ciencia Sinica Informaciones. The stated goal is continuous, weather-independent power delivery from orbit straight to the ground, something no conventional solar farm on Earth can offer, since those still lose output every night and on cloudy days. That is a dramatically different application of microwave technology than a kitchen appliance, but underneath, it shares the exact same shift in thinking that's happening in consumer ovens. Instead of using microwave energy the same blunt, unfocused way it's always been used, engineers across multiple, unrelated fields are learning to aim, shape, and control that energy with a level of precision that technology simply didn't allow even 10 or 15 years ago. So the real story here isn't just a Chinese company built a device that kills the microwave oven. It's bigger and, honestly, more interesting than that. Several separate Chinese research efforts, from home kitchens to orbital energy platforms, seem to be arriving independently at the same underlying insight: precision beats brute force. And if that broader shift keeps developing the way its researchers hope, it won't just change what sits on your kitchen counter. Over a longer timeline, it could eventually influence how entire cities receive their power.
Quick question for you. If a countertop appliance could actually crisp and reheat your food properly in about the same 2 minutes a microwave takes today, would you replace your microwave completely or keep it around as a backup just in case? Type your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how split people are on this. And if you enjoy videos that dig into how everyday technology actually works, consider subscribing. It really does help this channel keep making them. Now, let's be honest about exactly where all of this actually stands today, because it's important not to overstate it. Hybrid, sensor-guided ovens with browning and crisping capability are real, and limited versions are already reaching consumer markets in parts of Asia and beyond. But they remain significantly more expensive than a basic microwave, they're often larger and heavier, and they take longer to heat up initially than flipping a microwave on for 30 seconds. Replacing an appliance that costs as little as $50 and that already sits in nearly every home on the planet is not a fast or simple swap. It's a slow, expensive transition, and history offers a warning here.
Over the past 2 decades, several so-called microwave killers have launched with similar promises, only to quietly disappear a few years later. The orbital microwave power project is even further from being real infrastructure. As of now, it remains a research proposal and an engineering roadmap, not a functioning system beaming power down to cities. Space-based solar power has actually been discussed by scientists since the 1970s, and the underlying physics is well understood and not seriously disputed. What's still unresolved is the engineering, building something that large safely in orbit, keeping the beam precisely targeted from hundreds of kilometers up, managing the enormous cost, and addressing legitimate safety and regulatory questions about aiming large amounts of energy at the ground. So, no. Your microwave is not going in the trash tomorrow. What's actually happening is slower, and in some ways more interesting than a single dramatic invention. A gradual, multi-front rethink of what microwave energy is even meant to be used for.
It's a strange thing to sit with. The same basic physics, exciting molecules with electromagnetic waves, could one day reheat your dinner in one form and help power an entire city in another. Most real revolutions in technology don't arrive as one single dramatic invention unveiled on stage. They arrive slowly, as dozens of small, unglamorous improvements made by people willing to question a tool that everyone else stopped questioning decades ago. So here's the real question worth sitting with, long after this video ends. How many other finished, everyday pieces of technology around you right now, the kind you've stopped noticing entirely, are quietly being reinvented somewhere at this exact moment? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you'd like more stories like this one, real technology explained honestly, without the hype, make sure you're subscribed, because that's exactly the kind of thing we dig into here every week.